back to reading a book. Today we're going to read a book about Mexico City. Yeah, right. So to begin with, we will transfer to the contents table. The book is actually really long. I'm not going to read all the book. As you can see, there are more than 64 pages. I really love the beginning, the historical part about history of Mexico City, about the Incas and Mayas, Aztecs used to live there, so I'm gonna read this part. So if you are really interested, I do have this book and you can really find it online or download or buy it in the store and continue reading it. Okay, so we're gonna start with the city called Teotihuacan, and then we'll move to Tenochtitlan, and maybe we will read about who we're gonna read about? Sacrifices. Yeah, okay, let's see. So the beginning of the book is about is about to transfer your minds. Rotate, done. Okay, so the introduction is about geographical position of the city. Or you can see that's altitude of how high it is. Varies from 6,800 to 7,900 feet above above the sea level. And early residents, so people who lived, hunted mammoths in the middle of Mexico. That's mammoth. I used to see mammoths as furry animals. So these are bald. They don't have any fur. Okay. High water table in the valley continues to affect Mexico City. So we're gonna read about it now. Okay, introduction, the beginning. Mexico City, or Ciudad de Mexico in Spanish, arose in a place whose natural features have given its inhabitants problems and benefits for centuries. Although the city is at an elevation of 7,350 of what? Meters? Feet? It also sits at the bottom of a great basin called the Valley of Mexico, or Mexico, depends, that is surrounded by high mountains. The same position as Almaty in Kazakhstan. The bowl-shaped, like in a bowl, they live like in a bowl. The bowl-shaped valley traps smoke, making pollution one of Mexico City's biggest problems. Modern Mexico City sits on the bed of what was once Lake Texcoco. I don't know how to read it, Texcoco, and the land remains spongy and prone to flooding. The Valley of Mexico also lies on a major fault line, creating the possibility for damaging earthquakes. Despite these problems, the city's location has many advantages. It has a wonderful climate. Heavy rains often fall from June to September, but temperatures are almost never cold enough to require a jacket. It's sweet. Okay, and because of its high elevation, Mexico City escapes the intense heat that engulfs the rest of Mexico in this situation, much of the time. For its ancient inhabitants, including the Aztecs, the Valley of Mexico became... I'm not sure how to read it properly, Mexico or Mexico. So the city is called Mexico. The country is Mexico. But what do we call the valley? The Valley of Mexico. Okay, let's call it Valley of Mexico, because it's X, so it's gonna be X, Mexico. So the Valley of Mexico became a rich source of food. I was reading flood of food, producing enough to support a large population. As a result, highly advanced cultures developed. They used complex technologies and had well-ordered social systems. Because of its height, Mexico City was difficult to attack and became an ideal location for the capital of the great Aztec Empire. Later, the site became the capital of the United Mexican States, as the Mexican nation is officially called. Okay. For much of its history, Mexico City has been a seat of power. Aztecs, Spaniards, and independent Mexicans are ruled from here. All ruled from here. The location lacked navigable rivers, so something where you can navigate or float on the ships, and beasts of burden were rare because what are they worrying about? So there were no rivers and beasts. Okay, of burdens were rare because hay and feed were hard to come by. Okay. For these reasons, early cultures developed or depended on manual labor, including slaves. Poor people in outlying areas became the workforce and came to resent the rulers of Mexico City. Oh, that's gonna be some interesting chapters in this book later about this. Okay, there is more about the capital, and we can read about some historical parts. Oh, these are the same pages. I just magnify them. Why is it all upside down? It's upside down. So let's rotate it a little bit. Rotate by 90 degrees, by 180 degrees. Alright, looks better. The city called Teotihuacan. Okay. Beginning in the 1st century AD, about 25 miles north of present-day Mexico City, a great city named Teotihuacan came into being. Its people learned to farm the land, constructing terraces of hillsides to catch and hold rainwater, and using water from underground springs for annual irrigation. Oh, that's awesome. They discovered maize. How do you read it? I know that it's maize, as you pronounce it in Spanish. I'm not sure about the English pronunciation, so it's maize. They discovered maize, or corn, a valuable food that could keep throughout the year. In Teotihuacan, workers laid out their streets in grid pattern and lined them with stone and brick houses. That's awesome. Merchants, farmers, warriors, and craftspeople inhabited their own districts, all separated. Temples and palaces dominated the central district, where rulers and priests lived in splendor. Large religious processions, watched by many thousands of people, filled a wide main street. Artisans decorated great stone buildings with intricate carvings. The people of Teotihuacan made concrete for their floors and plastered the outside of their buildings. It looks nice. They built a canal to bring water to the city. The great goddess was the most important god, especially at the beginning of Teotihuacan culture. She is always shown with her face covered, usually giving water, seeds, and other good things to her worshippers. She held the promise of good harvests, which the people needed to survive. Over time, Teotihuacan developed into a great military power. Its rulers became used to vast wealth, although most farmers and other workers lived in poverty, in bad conditions. Modern archaeologists think that Teotihuacan declined largely because of a revolt by the people who were fed up with their oppressive rulers. I'm fed up with this. Oh yeah, I love these pictures. They have so many details, so you can really zoom into some parts and read more details. The great pattern of Teotihuacan would be repeated by the Aztec when they founded Tenochtitlan, the future Mexico City. Yeah, the same pattern, the same ornaments. Right, what else we can see in this picture? Coming storm. Teotihuacan revered many gods, with pyramids dedicated to the sun, the moon, and the feathered serpent. Oh, horrible. The changing role of the storm god was a foreboding sign. He began He began as a god of agriculture, bringing rain to the crops. He was represented as a jaguar with a roar like thunder, a cloud or a snake which sheds its skin, symbolizing rebirth and the cycle of seasons. Okay. But as the time went on, the storm god became more and more a god of war. They didn't want to grow their crops anymore, they wanted to conquer the universe. It's quite obvious and typical for different civilizations. Alright, so the next page is the same, just upside down again. Alright, that's the detail which I told you about, that I love these details, right? They're just too little now. Okay. Next. Okay, the next. Floating farms. Quite interesting. That's how they organize their farming. How to create farming, because there was a lot of water. If you are interested, you can read. Just pause this page and read it. Fascinating. We're gonna go further. That's the same page, it's just maybe bigger, more comfortable for reading this way. Throughout the ancient world, irrigation gave people a stable food supply and allowed their cultures to flourish. The residents of the Valley of Mexico, also built irrigation system, but they added a unique twist. Because they were in a valley with lakes at the bottom, it was difficult to bring lake water to higher land. Yeah, because they needed to move it up. Oh, I lost it. So they did the reverse. They brought land to the water. What? They created islands called chinampas and then planted them with various crops that yielded several harvests per year. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, probably that's something similar to Japanese system when they grow rice in water. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not that into agriculture. Okay. And now about arrival of Aztec civilization. So Aztec arrived. According to legend, the Aztecs wandered for centuries in the wilderness until they came to the Valley of Mexico. Hold on, the name? Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird god. Do we have him in the picture? Hummingbird. I don't see the hummingbird god. Told them to look for a lake with a small island. They would know it was the right place when they saw an eagle perch on a cactus eating a snake. The Aztecs saw this very scene in the Valley of Mexico and stopped wandering. In time, they built their capital city of Tenochtitlan in the site. The modern Mexican flag has a picture of an eagle clutching a snake, commemorating the birth of the nation's greatest city. That's the legend. In fact, the Aztecs arrived in the Valley of Mexico in the middle of the 13th century, when several warring peoples were fighting one another. The Aztecs were conquered and enslaved by the Culhuacan, who used the Aztecs as mercenaries, warriors for hire. One civilization is fighting another civilization, the third civilization comes from somewhere else and gets them both. Okay. The slaves then conquered the masters and came to control most of the valley. Most of their gods, including Huitzilopochtli, actually originated in the Valley of Mexico. Aztec society was at first organized into small family clans called calpuli, each of which had its own laws and rulers. Members of the Kalpuli were treated more or less as equals. But as the rulers got more powerful, the common people became more like slaves than citizens. So that's the picture of marketplace with some details. Okay, then that's the same page, the same with details. And now the fascinating picture. I wonder where they got it. Magnificent Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan is the archaeological wonder. I'm still not sure if they really found it, but okay. Temple of Huitzilopochtli. By the 16th century, Tenochtitlan had a population of perhaps 300,000 people, a huge number of people at the time. Yes, impossible to feed, I guess. And on the outskirts of the city lived another 400,000. Wow. Urban and suburban Tenochtitlan appeared to be one huge metropolitan area joined together with a system of roads and canals. It was an island city surrounded by Lake Texcoco. The massive 10-mile dike of I cannot read that. Nizahwalcayotl, whatever, was an engineering marvel. It not only protected the city from flood, but also allowed the chinampas to be farmed near the city. The homes of the rich were sparkling, white with lime plaster, and had banners made of bright-colored feathers flying atop towers. Oh, that's amazing. At the center of the city was a large area devoted to religious observances. Its most impressive structure was the pyramid-shaped temple to Huitzilopochtli. Rebuilt several times on the same spot, the temple honored the place where, according to legend, the Aztecs had seen the eagle sitting on the cactus clutching the snake. Temples to other gods, sumptuous residence for Aztec priests, and huge marketplace were located in the central district. Here also was the king's palace with its treasury filled with vast wealth. Treasury where they kept all the money, not money, gold at that time. Gold or maybe other metals. So, not only metals, it could be food, it could be furs, different things which people just collected and considered to be expensive. Signs of violence existed too. A gigantic rag called the what? Tzompantli displayed the skulls of thousands of people sacrificed to the gods. The steps of Huitzilopochtli's temple were spattered with blood. That's a horrible bloody history, actually. The Chinampas helped establish Tenochtitlan, but could not come close to providing so many people with food, let alone riches. Tenochtitlan was rich because it was the center of a great empire covering much of modern-day Mexico. The payments made by conquered people kept food, riches, and slaves pouring into the city for centuries. So big city attracted money and slaves. Okay, the same details. And now what the city looked like. That's why I like this book, because it has a lot of details, a lot of really small detailed pictures where you can look at the details, read some interesting moments. Building fires around a sweat room. It's like sauna. In hot weather, cooking was done in the patios. Where? Outside. Farmer's home with elaborate roof. Okay. Mat beds, three-legged bowls, and maybe a low table were the only furnishings. Maybe, because we don't know, maybe there were more there, but they didn't get saved. The fireplace was central to the home. This one holds a shrine. Yeah, the shrine is in the corner. People couldn't drink Blackish canal and lake water. Fresh water was delivered in clay jugs. Jugs. Where from? From somewhere, okay. Alright, if you really want to, you can read more details about this place.